Americans are reacting to the news about the U.S.'s memorandum of understanding to end the war with Iran. And joining me now is CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto, to discuss the findings from a new CBS News poll. Anthony, always great to speak with you. How do Americans feel about ending the war, and do they believe it achieved the Trump administration's goals?
Great to talk to you, Jack. And great questions. Let me take those in order. First, yeah, big majorities say they do want the conflict to end now. Big part of that is, frankly, gas prices. And you'll recall people have been telling us throughout that the increase in gas prices has really hit them financially hard. In fact, the more they say that, the more they say they want the conflict to end. So on that front, domestically, more people do think they see gas prices now going down if the war ends. Having said that, your second question, Jack, about what they see coming out of this, well, this looks like a lot of unfinished business to the public, because almost 7 in 10 say they don't think the U.S. has permanently ended Iran's nuclear program. In fact, there are other elements of this, some that the public have told us ought to be U.S. aims, some that the administration has talked about, but they don't feel on balance the U.S. has stopped Iran from threatening other countries in the region. That's almost 7 in 10 saying not done. Or making sure Iran's people are safe and free. Again, not done. That's what I mean by unfinished business in that sense out there if the war comes to an end, that the U.S. has not yet achieved those things.
Well, that leads me to my next question. So when it comes to the agreement to end the war, which country do most people believe got the better end of this deal?
Well, I can show you that. And on balance, you would think this would be the benchmark, but only relatively few people think the U.S. would get the better of this deal. More so, say, better for Iran or about equal between the two. There's a couple of elements to this. One is the overall success that they see. And for U.S. strategic interests, more on balance say they feel it hasn't been successful than it has. The other part of this leads into the administration and its handling of it. One thing that they've seen is, or they feel is, that they don't think the administration gauged the impact that this would have on the world economy. That comes back to those gas prices I talked about. 2/3 saying they think it had more impact than the administration had anticipated, Jack.
So how do Americans feel about President Trump handling this war? And I know it's definitely impacted his approval ratings, right?
It has. Over the course of the war, we've seen his overall approval rating tick down. Now, that has stabilized this week. Some of that is related to gas prices and that anticipation of them going down. But two things on that front. One is that 2/3 say they think the administration is reaching this deal because it wants to end the war, more so than that it thinks the U.S. has met its goals. So that's number one. But I want to show you this among Republicans, Jack, because, yes, the Republican base for the president has and continues to support him in the administration. However, you do see this 40% that says now they think the U.S. should continue until Iran gives up more. It's back to that idea of unfinished business. These folks, these Republicans, are more likely to say it's unacceptable to end the conflict with the Iranian leadership still in power, as well as increasingly feeling like Iran will continue to threaten its neighbors in the region. So that's the view from a sizable part of that Republican base, Jack.
Well, did that surprise you, Anthony, that MAGA Republicans were more, I mean, it's kind of close from MAGA to all Republicans, but did it surprise you that more MAGA Republicans would have liked to seen us get more out of Iran?
Well, when you look at the way these folks break on what they see coming out of the conflict, then they say it's not acceptable to them to leave the current Iranian regime in power, not acceptable, or they think Iran will continue to threaten its neighbors in the region. That reads like unfinished business. And so while they continue to support the president, they do see the U.S. in their mind should continue until it gets Iran to give up more, Jack.
All right, Anthony Salvanto, CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys. Thanks as always. We appreciate it. Good speaking with you.